Everybody, welcome to season 2 of Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality. I'm Christian Smith, the host, the heretic. We're back. I'm excited. We are we're just getting ready to take it to another level this season. I got some of my friends here. Let's go ahead and bring them on the screen. The cast is back, y'all. We got most of the cast here today. I'm just so excited. I really miss doing this with the fam. Shout out to everybody on Patreon who supports the work that we do, and those who are in our live virtual audience today. Thank you for being a part of our live virtual audience. We do this for you. I know the Kingmaker said last season we don't care about y'all, but we really do. Y'all remember that episode where the Kingmaker said that? We don't care about them.
I do this for me. Forget y'all about it. I'm trying to tell you.
Yo, you can't. You gotta watch the Kingmaker, man. So yeah, for those who are watching, it's September in Atlanta, but it's scorching hot. So you might see me wiping my face because I'm outside because I can't smoke in the house because Pamela won't let me. But I want to go ahead and get into it. This is Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. Just like last season, we're going to keep it consistent. We make disruptive, faith based content for the everyday person. So we talk about some lofty ideas at times, but we want to make sure that we make it as accessible as possible because we have some brilliant people on this cast. We don't want Holy Smokes to be this elitist type of space where you got to have an advanced degree to understand the conversation. We want everybody to be able to understand and chime in. We have one rule here at Holy Smokes. One rule. That rule is that we respect each other's lived experience.
What is the rule?
That we respect each other's lived experience.
Say it one more time, Robert.
One more time. One more time. That we respect each other's lived experience. We have conversations about theology and all these lofty things. And sometimes what we do is we take our doctrine or our theory and we exalt it over somebody's lived experience. We can't break that rule at Holy Smokes. So we challenge people at Holy Smokes. If you encounter somebody whose lived experience contradicts your doctrine, take that as an opportunity to learn from what that person has lived. So that's based in something called Greatest Commandment Theology, which simply says that your love for God is expressed in how you love your neighbor, and your love for your neighbor is an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor, and you can't fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. So that is the basis for that rule. That's how we roll here. In case you didn't know, because some people are probably listening or watching and saying, "Greatest Commandment Theology, what is that?" Well, I wrote a book about it, and it's dropping this month.
Pub your book, Reverend. Pub your book.
Yeah. So my first book, Breaking All the Rules, is coming out later this month. You can go to christianasmith.com and pre-order it. I would really appreciate that. But listen, I want to go ahead and get into this topic. We're talking about um, salvation. What's the point? This is gonna be fun. We got to come out the gate swinging. So I want to give my crew an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm going to start, as I said, I'm Christian, the heretic, the host. Today I am smoking a Tabac Especial. I know Tiger is jealous because this is his favorite, but that's all right. So I'm smoking the Tabac Especial. Ariana, I promise you it's coming. I am impatiently waiting too. Breaking all the rules is coming, Ariana. And then today, I'm drinking out of my new uh, snifter that my wife got me in celebration of the 2-year anniversary of my church. It has my little logo on there. I'm so blessed. It's spill proof, so when I sit it down, like it doesn't spill. And I'm having Wild Turkey 101 with a little agave and lime. And for everybody who's on the cast today. Just tell us a little bit about what you've done during the break. I've been working the whole time, except for last week. I took my first vacation in a year and a half. So that was really good. I didn't open my computer for a whole week. It was such a blessing. So everybody else, introduce yourself. What are you drinking? If you're smoking, what are you smoking? And just tell us something you've done during this break that we've had. Grayson, the pundit, you go ahead first.
Hello, everyone. As has been said, I am the pundit. I am Grayson Hester, pronouns he, him, his. And I'm really excited to talk about salivation today because I really enjoy things that are mouthwatering. So So I'm just really excited. And speaking of mouthwatering things, I guess it's just going to be a culinary adventure. I am drinking a Cabernet Sauvignon from Dark Horse. My glass is empty, so during another intro, I'm going to go top myself off. Top myself off. Maybe I shouldn't. But I'm here in Atlanta, back in Atlanta, and am back in school at McAfee School of Theology. And what I did during the break was mostly a lot of work. Didn't really do much vacationing. I was, as you all know, home in Tennessee, so I did spend a lot of time with family, which was wonderful, and did some hiking and just got to make up for some lost time with my family. And I think that was the most memorable part of it.
All right. Grayson, the pundit, he hit us with two puns out the gate, staying true to form. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Mr. Fancy Ass, Myron the Mystic. Let's go.
Unmute myself here, folks. How you doing? Myron the Mystic. They call me that just because, I believe in mystical experiences. That it is the, epistemological. Oh, God, I'm going to have to pay a lot of money for this. It's the epistemological roots of theological expression, right? You can't think about God if you don't spend time with God. So they call me the Mystic.
Yeah.
I got to pay for it. I gotta pay for it. I know. Look, I got cash today because this topic I'm gonna have to pay all night long. I already know it. But let me tell you what I did. I worked over the last month and a half, and we welcomed 185 brand new graduate students to Mercer University's College of Professional Development. So we had that grand opportunity to do that, and I'm looking forward to get into this topic and discuss soteriology.
That's another dollar jar.
Yeah, I'm getting it out of the way in the beginning so that when I use it later on,
All right, so
pay.
Myron, tell everybody what soteriology is.
It is the study of salvation. It's a theological term that means the study of salvation.
Yes. So Myron is already 3 deep in the dollar jar. For those who don't know what the dollar jar is, it is our mechanism to monitor people's language. Obviously, at Holy Smokes, we don't monitor cuss words. If you're wondering why, go back to season 1. I think was it episode 2 or 3. I just know it was like the greatest closeout of any episode we had. Nikki gave us the greatest closeout ever on that Watch Your Mouth episode. So we don't monitor profanity because sometimes a cuss word just it drives home the point. So sometimes that's okay. We don't overuse profanity. We're not doing it as a gimmick, but sometimes we say a cuss word from time to time. But we do monitor academic language. So when people say things like epistemology and soteriology, they have to put a dollar in the jar.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I defined epistemology in a previous episode. Does that count for this episode?
That was last season.
No.
We're in a new season now.
All right. It's a new season. It's a new day, huh? So this whole thing is an Israel Houghton song.
It's a special anointing coming your way, Doc. Anyway, let's go ahead and move forward with the next introduction. We got Kervance Ross, the Kingmaker. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Greetings and salutations. I am Kervance Ross, the Kingmaker, and I am drinking out of this custom glass while I'm promoting this brand, Christian A. Smith. I'm drinking Monkey Shoulder. Go try it out and thank me later. And I am smoking the Leather Rose by the Deadwood Tobacco Company. It is the I think it's the second line to the Fat Bottom Betty. And since we've been away, I have been helping the world sort out their connection to Christ. I didn't say soul salvation because that would be totally against what we get ready to talk about. So I've been helping them work out their connection to Christ. I'm just glad to be.
The Kingmaker, everybody. Like when he talks, you have to pay attention. Like, did y'all feel that? Did y'all feel the whole energy change when he opened his mouth? I did. Praise the Lord, everybody. Let's move on. We got all right. No. Let's go to Nikki real quick, and then we're gonna come back to our friend. No, Tiger, don't say anything. Don't say anything. We'll come back. We'll come to you in a second. We'll come to you in a second. We're gonna come to Tiger in a minute. Nikki, go ahead, introduce yourself, and we're gonna come back to Tiger.
All right. I feel like I'm being set up. No, Nikki Hardiman here. They call me the anchor. And I'm so glad to be back. I have missed you all so very much. Today, I tried to get outside, but my internet wasn't cooperating with me. So I'm inside, not smoking anything today. But I've got a little bullet neat that I've been obviously nursing for a while. And over the break, so I figured out how to go back to the office after being home for a while. And instead of taking one individual vacation, I ended up taking several days off throughout the month of July and spent it with my kids. And so we just kind of slowed the summer down, chilled out a little bit, and enjoyed each other. And it was a good way to spend the break.
Yes, ma'am. You gotta love Nikki. Like, if you don't love Nikki, something is wrong with you. Seriously, she's the anchor. We love Nikki. All right, so we're gonna move on to the last introduction, and with this last introduction, we have a new segment of the podcast this season. It's going to be the cigar tip of the day. So each episode, we're going to give you a different cigar tip. And this next individual is going to introduce himself and then do the cigar tip. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the stage Tiger Gibson, aka
AKA
the Subtle Savage,
AKA
aka Mr. Finesse, aka
AKA
the Buffalo Brawler, aka
AKA
the Polo Pounder. Let's give it up for Tiger Gibson.
Holy smokes, what's good? I'm glad to be back for season 2. I hope you all are having as much fun as I am. At some point, I'm sure the rest of the guys will explain those monikers. I have no reason why I have those monikers. But let's hop into the cigar tip of the day. So, whether you have one cigar or 100 cigars, what's important is that whenever you enjoy it, that your cigar is fresh. And the proper storage of your cigar is important. Now, at some point throughout season 2, we're going to talk humidors, we'll talk travel cases, we'll talk all of those things. But today, I want to talk about how you can keep your cigars fresh. So this is one of my personal humidors. I'll show that to you there. And I want to talk about these packs by Boveda. Now, what they do, people often they stress over the idea of how do I keep my humidor seasoned? I don't feel like putting in the work. I don't feel like putting in the time. It's too much. It's too much. It's hard to do. It never balances right. Go spend the money and get this pack. It'll keep everything you need in your humidor and keep your cigars fresh. Now, me personally, I don't have a cigar every day. I don't even have them every week. But whenever I do have them, when I reach for them, they're fresh. Now, this company, Bovita, they found a way to put the right amount of humidity into your humidor. And when it gets too humidified, these packs pull the right amount out. The cigars, they're made out of leaves. So we want to make sure that they stay moist and they're balanced between 65 and 72 to 73 degrees. With your busy schedule, with your life, with what you have to do every day on the go, who has time to go and check your humidor every day? Get you a couple of packs, put them in there, make sure your humidor is closed tight. Whenever you reach for your cigar, you'll be good to go. So when you go to enjoy one on your patio or go to meet with your friends and your loved ones and you light your stick, you know it'll be just as fresh as the day you bought it. And that's my Tiger tip of the day. Don't worry about it. Don't go in trying to season it if you can. If you can't, these packs do all the work for you. They got one for 75% and 69. My suggestion and my tip is get both. Put them in and you will be good to go. See you next time for a Tiger tip of the day.
May the Lord add a blessing to the readers, the hearers, and the doers of his word.
Amen.
And in closing, don't believe all those monikers. No, I'm just joking.
No, believe them. We'll explain Tiger's monikers
I embrace them. I'm not like
as the
Byron. I'm
season
not
goes.
going to fight. I lay down.
Yeah, so we'll explain one. So my Tiger's the subtle savage, Mr. Finesse, the Buffalo Brawler, the Polo Pounder. We'll just explain subtle savage. Tiger has a way of cutting you with his words, and you don't even know you just got cut. It's it's uncanny. It's happened to me a number of times. I believe most of us on this panel can say Tiger has cut us in a way that we didn't realize it till like a couple of hours later. Like, did he just demean me? Yeah, that's Tiger Gibson, the subtle savage. So let's go ahead and get into this topic. I'm excited today because we're kicking off season 2 with a banger. And for today, we're talking about the concept of salvation. And we're asking the question, what is the point? So I'm just want to make this question real simple. I want Nikki to go ahead and get us started because she's our anchor. She holds us down. Nikki, can you help us answer the question, what is the level of importance of salvation in the modern church?
I did read my show notes, so I knew this question was where we were starting, and so I think this question of salvation, the simple answer is, of course, it is the reason d'etre, the raison d'etre of the church is for the salvation of humanity, and so in some ways, I think it is the reason the church exists. However, for me, I think the way that raison d'etre, I just got a dollar jar. The reason to be, the reason for the existence of the church is for the salvation of humanity, or to communicate how you achieve that, or make your way to salvation, or experience salvation. And so I think that it is essential in that way. Unfortunately, I think that it's a much more complicated topic to talk about than the church has allowed it to be. Or maybe it's a much more it's a deeper topic than the church has allowed it to be. Too often, the church has made this conversation about what happens to us when we die. And we have failed to talk about what it means for while we're alive today, and how this way of being in the world can save our lives now. And what does that look like? And why do we want it? And where does it take us? And so, yes, I think it's an incredibly essential topic for the church to talk about. But I think that we need to add some depth to that conversation in the wider way of being.
Okay. Anybody got anything you want to add to that? Thank you, Nikki. That's a great way to get us started. What's the level of importance of salvation?
I would say the level of salvation for the church is incredibly important, because the church is the thing from which a lot of people need saving. And if the and if the church isn't talking about that, then it's just condemning more people to a very real, very present earthly hell it has no intention of saving people from. So if the church is trying to save itself from its inevitable decline, then it should probably start talking about how it can start saving people now instead of condemning them. That's all I got.
The people, what? We need to be saved from the church. Now, it's too early in the season for this. It's too early in the season. Grayson, you're on timeout for the rest of the episode.
Listen, you told me, no, now Grayson, you need to have brevity and you need to make sure you don't go on too long. So I was short, and now you're getting on to me.
Golly. Oh, you got a dollar jar for brevity.
That's your word.
I didn't say it publicly, though. I just said it to you privately.
At least the Q plus agenda is getting galvanized to just the episodes in season 1, because now finally the Q plus agenda has been alleviated. Let's go, Joe Biden. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We gotta hit the Kingmaker for galvanized, though. We got to. Dollar jar.
I do think, though, that we need to explain for this season what he means by that, because out of context, people might think Kurt Vance is just talking out of his ass. So last season, there was a conspiracy, unfounded, QAnon-like, that Kirkland and I were both part of the LGBTQ plus community, or Q plus community for short. And there were times when I would use a rather loquacious word, one might say. I know. I was doing it on purpose.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
A sesquipedalian word, one might say, which means a long word. And Kirkland was in charge of the dollar jar, and Kirkland would sometimes not charge me that dollar because we're in this together. So that's what Kurt Vance is talking about.
It's the gay agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Not denying
All
it.
right. So Nikki and Grayson just dropped some stuff on us. Grayson said we need to get saved from the church. I don't even know where to go from there. Anybody have any thoughts? Please do share.
I think I kind of understand where Grayson is coming from a little bit. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was Dietrich Bonhoeffer that said something like, the church should first apologize first before they try to minister. Maybe one of you all can correct me, but first apologize, then try to minister for your wrong ways. And I understand that, but I don't think every church is wrong, and I don't think every ministry is wrong either. I think salvation is important because there's still sin, and there's still a world, and that there's still death. For me, salvation is important for me because I do believe in death. I do believe in a eternal life and an eternal damnation. And daily, I need God. And what I'm saved to is a a relationship to God and his grace. So that, in short, is what it is for me, and it is necessary.
Thank you, Tiger. Thank you for giving us something to balance off this heresy, because I'm telling you, it's just troubling to me. And I think that's good because a lot of times, you know, people assume that in a space like this, everybody has to agree on everything. And the reality is, we probably got to do an episode. We may have an episode this season on heaven and hell. And yeah, the existence of heaven and hell. We're not going to agree on that. Like, some people hold very strong convictions about heaven and hell. Some people are indifferent towards it. So thank you, Tiger, for bringing that clarity. Um, Myron, what you got, man? And then I want to hear what the Kingmaker has too. Tell us what you got.
Yeah. So first off, to answer that question, I do think there's a heaven and a hell, but we'll talk about that in that podcast episode. I don't like the term salvation because I think it gives us the wrong connotation of what I think the scriptures mean when it says that we need to be saved. I think a better term is delivered or healed or set free. And the thing I think we're being delivered and healed and set free is sometimes our own proclivities. Whether you want to admit it or not, I think humanity has this proclivity toward violence. It has this proclivity towards hierarchy where we like to be in charge on top of things, and we like to belittle and put things and people below us. And I think that heaven has to come and sometimes save us and rescue us, if you would. Yeah, I know, I'm a pay, but I'm in the flow. Has to rescue us, if you would, from those proclivities which hurt and injure other people. And so when Grayson says that the church needs to be saved from the church, I agree, but I agree in the aspect of the church being a group of individuals who need to be sometimes saved from themselves. And so that's what I think it means.
So Myron totally stole my thunder. See, this is the conspiracy, right? Myron just took all the words out of my mouth, which falls in
That means
line
you
with
can pay
how he's
all
trying
my
to take
dollars.
over my church. No, he's trying to take over my church. Do y'all see that? He went and preached last week and didn't tell me, and now he's taking
Doing
all of
this?
my thoughts.
We doing this in the middle of the broadcast? We doing
Yeah,
this?
man.
Yes.
If
Listen,
you had me, I wouldn't do that to you, bro. You might want to consider making me a assistant pastor at the faith community.
Listen, Christian, I heard he was even wearing your
The
clothes.
man went and preached in clothes I made for him and didn't tell me and didn't even acknowledge the church. And Tiger was there.
Apparently, I'm gonna need several drinks for this episode. Not just for the topic, but
Let's ask him, Myron, what did you wear? Did you wear P squared?
of course I did. Of course I wore P squared.
Well,
Why would I wear anything else?
Well, I don't know. Last season you was talking about Brooks Brothers like they was the ish. So I
mean,
you
and
know.
they declared bankruptcy over the pandemic, so they've got no money to give us. I was trying to get us sponsors, brother.
yep.
They ain't Brooks Brothers. They're Brooks Brothers.
There it is. Thank you, pundit. Thank you.
Bankruptcy is just to get out of jail free card for the rich. They not broke. They got money. They just wiped out their debt. We'll talk about bankruptcy on another episode.
Declare bankruptcy.
Michael, that's not how that works. If you're not an Office fan, you wouldn't understand that. Let's keep going. Kingmaker, talk to us. What's the level of importance of salvation?
For me, salvation is the Christian version of a homophone. Homophone is a word that sounds the same as another word, but it has a different meaning. So you're talking about L-A-I-L and L-A-L-E. You would have add, A-D, and add, A-D-D. Sounds the same as another word, but sometimes it has a different spelling and has a different meaning. In this situation, salvation sounds the same, is spelled the same, but we've never defined the other word that it describes in Christianity in the 21st century. So salvation is to be connected to Christ in a relationship that you didn't have before with a public expression. Connected and salvation are homophones. They sound the same, but in this circumstance, they're spelled differently, and we've never defined the difference. And I think it's a challenge for us because many of us continue to use the one word definition for a group of people who have never been connected to Christ, who've never been to church, who've never been in a circumstance of traditional church. And we've used it for every definition that doesn't fit clearly for people who don't understand the first definition. I think it is important to the church, but in the 21st century, particularly in quarantine, in COVID, where we're reaching beyond the church, we've got to explain to people and come up with a different word that will help people understand the one word that many of us don't even understand, and make sure that it is impactful to the people that we're trying to reach, while making sure that it's clear to the people who are inside that have never reached their level of salvation. They just talk about it and never do it.
Well, all right. We are getting off to a great start for season 2. And the live virtual audience is popping right now because the comments are flowing. Shout out to the Kingmaker for defining homonym before he got hit with the dollar jar. Somebody wised up since season 1 because he was the dollar general in season 1, and Grayson was the Dollar Tree. But I don't know, Myron might be catching up. Myron, you might be catching up. So a lot of great thoughts right here. And what we're getting in our virtual audience right now is people who have an issue with this whole concept of like eternal fate, which gets into this conversation of heaven and hell, which we're not going to have right now. But I think the reason people have such an issue with the idea of eternal fate is because that is how it is used in our churches. Like, one of the things that grieves me the most about how churches use salvation is this right here. And I don't know, like, everybody might not have this as a part of their tradition, but when I hear preachers that do the invitation in the Black church and they say, if you died tonight, do you know where you would spend eternity? And that's the hook to
It's
getting
scare
saved.
tactic.
Yeah, it's a fear tactic.
Yeah,
Like,
scare tactic.
but because death is so far beyond our comprehension, we don't know what happens after death. So if you tap into the thing I cannot comprehend and convince me that you have the answer, now I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. It's a fear tactic that leads to manipulation. So what we need to do is really broaden this whole idea of salvation beyond just, if you died tonight, do you know where you would spend eternity? Would you spend eternity in hell, or would you spend eternity in heaven? That's the question that gets asked so often in church during the invitation, and people run to the altar because they don't want to go to hell and they want to get into heaven. And then they think, if I just run down to the altar, I'm saved from hell. Doesn't matter if I treat people like shit the rest of my life. I got saved at the altar, so I'm going to heaven. So what I want to ask us, since we see that the church sometimes misuses this concept of salvation, I want to ask this question, and I want Grayson to let us know what he thinks. Grayson, when we talk about salvation, what are we being saved from, and what are we being saved to?
So salivation is a process by which by which your body prepares for food. That's a difficult question. Intentionally, because my views of salvation, and this always, I know we're trying not to talk about heaven and hell, but it always goes back to that. And I personally don't believe in a physical, real place, hell. And even if it is there, I don't believe it's eternal. So what we're being saved from is, I think, for how the church so often uses it, it is being saved from your ability to be a full human being, saved from your ability to have autonomy, saved from your ability to think for yourself, and to think and to be in a true community that isn't about conformity, to be in a true community that looks more like Christ and less like a cult. And that goes back to that fear tactic and that manipulation. So we're being saved from that, because if so much of our Christianity in the US is rooted in slaveholder religion, as Richard Rohr and I'm sure many others call it, then it's interesting that white Christians, European Christians who then became white Christians, would say, here's your eternal condition, and then bestowed upon people an eternal condition. They were like, what is your eternal condition going to be, heaven or hell? Doesn't matter, because for chattel slavery, the eternal condition was hell, and that they were bestowing on people. And so I think that mentality is still at play if we're not aware of it. So we're being saved from our ability to be full thinking human beings, and we're being saved to essentially slaveholder religion, where we do whatever the master says, and then we pay the master's tithes, and that's that. My view of it is still developing. I don't hold to that. I try to resist that with everything I have. But I do think that because it is so based on manipulation and fear, and how different is an altar from an auction block historically, I don't know. So that, I know I'm being real negative today, but I'm in Race and Racisms with Dr. Walker Barnes. So it's just going to kind of be a downer, but that's what I'm thinking about.
Did you just say what's the difference between an altar and the auction block?
Oh, mercy, Jesus. I don't know what to do with that. Oh my God.
Okay, hold up. Myron had something he wanted to say, and then Tiger.
No,
Myron,
I can't say it right now. I need to process.
Tiger has nothing.
So I'm gonna take this while they process it.
I got it. Let me push that through my machinery.
The beauty of Holy Smokes is it allows us to think out loud and have conversations that most people are uncomfortable having. For me, this salvation concept, in the context that it is generally used, is the green card of Christianity. It puts you in the place where citizens of a particular kingdom, and we use a lot of government terminology. The challenge with that is it forces us to ask questions about one of the most key verses and most popular verses in all the Bible, where John 3:16 says, "For God so loved not the church, not Christians, he loved the world," which means that his love was infinite for people, period, that he created on this planet called Earth. The second part of this says he gave his only begotten son. So this was a gift. He gave him so that anybody that will believe in him, not his son, that would believe in God, because you now got to go with just basic grammar. The son is a conduit to believing in God, will have everlasting life. The challenge here is it does not connect you to a church. It does not connect you to a religion. It connects you to simply a belief that God loves you so much that you can't encompass it. This now creates a challenge, because if we use it in the context that it's been used in, the only way that you can accept the love of God is if you get a green card to a country or a kingdom that forces you to say that I am unsaved in a space that God has already said I'm free to. And this now it's a whole different conversation, and we got to figure out which part of it we want to address.
Oh boy.
I like how you use green card. That's very
I like that too.
that's a very refreshing way to package it. Almost like how Myron took out the idea of using the word salvation and insert the word. I think he took out salvation and inserted delivered. But Grayson, did you say the altar and the lynching block are the same?
I think I said, how much distance is there between, or I didn't say they're the same, and I said auction.
Distance, not difference.
I think so. I mean, I said auction block. I didn't say lynching block.
Auction block. Yeah, that's what in my head. Auction, lynching block. My bad.
You're fine.
Yeah, but you said distance, not difference.
I think so.
Oh,
Look,
someone can call me out
either
on
way. I think he said difference, but we'll have to go back and why. Yeah, difference.
Wait, I think you said difference. What's the difference between the auction block and the altar?
Distance.
Okay.
Grayson.
Thank y'all for holding me accountable.
And I'm in my head. I thought you said, "What is the difference between?"
He did. He said difference.
Oh,
He said difference and not distance. He said difference. Yeah.
Oh, not distance.
I think what he's saying is that in the white supremacist church of America,
yeah,
there really is no difference between the auction block and the altar. I believe he's saying that.
I agree with me and you.
Yes.
Absolutely. True, right? If you go to those slave castles in Ghana, you'll see where they held the slaves was right below where the churches were. And so they were one and the same, right? They were worshiping God at the top while they were holding black bodies underneath. So really, in American versions of Christianity, there is no separation between the two.
Yeah, and my parochialism
even from
this thing sometimes, and when I hear that, I instantly think like Rhema, and then a auction block like at my church. I've got to get better with broadening my scope.
Yeah, there. So I think to kind of piggyback on that, Tiger, I think when we talk about the church, we're talking about a large institution with so many different branches, right? I love the church, which is why I'm still a part of it, which is why I started a church. And because I love the church so much, I critique it the way I do because I want it to be better.
Right.
I want it to constantly
be
better.
Guy.
Exactly. James Baldwin. That's Grayson's boyfriend. So I think that's a challenge for all of us when it comes to hearing a critique of the church. We have to internalize it to the point that we can improve, but not go so far to think that every critique of the church is a critique of us individually, because there are some critiques that just don't apply to all of us. They apply to certain branches of the church. The same way people get, like white people get uncomfortable when we talk about white privilege. Oh, I don't have the same way black
that wouldn't apply here.
Oh yes, you're so right.
Yeah,
no, that's
I'm
what I was
sorry.
That's what I was thinking, Christian. I was thinking that exact thing.
And I don't want to just stop with white people. I mean, that's a good place to start in America, but let's talk about privilege across the board. The same way straight people get uncomfortable when we talk about homophobia, right? Like, oh, that's not me. Oh, I'm not this. The same way men get uncomfortable when we talk about misogyny. Oh,
right.
well, that's men. That's not. So we want to completely dismiss the critique because we don't feel like it necessarily applies to us individually.
Or like if right now in this setting, you started talking about extra fancy people. Like no one in this group would come out and be like, "Oh, not me. I don't have my initials on my socks."
Really? Is that
who would say that in this group?
really? Now, I didn't take a single shot at you, Tiger. The AKA the Subtle Savage,
I only
AKA
said that because I
the
didn't think
Polo
no one in the
Pounder.
group would say anything.
Nobody.
Is that the $5 jar?
I
Yeah,
so.
Brother,
I think this is important.
you need to get saved from your proclivity to one
go ahead,
savage.
Myron, I only said that because I didn't think anyone in this group would respond. By the way, the question was asked, what did I do this summer? This summer, Myron and I started a beard oil company.
He did.
But
He did.
back to this, I get your point, Pastor Smith, but I didn't know Myron would react like that. But I guess, I get
Oh
it.
my God.
We sniffed him out.
I think this is.
Is there any racists in the house?
All y'all need to be saved. All of you. That's what I'm saying.
Racist people. Racist people.
All of them.
Quiet.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you're talking about racist people, it's true about all of them.
Yeah. And the rich black bougie.
Exactly.
So I want to do something real quick. Can we throw up Josh's comment about history and ancient Christianity? Because I do want to address that, and then I want to hear what Nikki has to say about what are we being saved from and what are we being saved to. So Josh, who's one of our beloved patrons and such a friend to the faith community. Now let's leave that up because I want to actually read what it said. So Josh said, I mean, there is some history in ancient Christianity that thinks of people as in need of being ransomed by God from someone. And in that case, the parallels between the auction block and the altar aren't so distant. So I think it's important to recognize that there are a number of different views of salvation, or in this instance, we're talking about atonement.
Yeah.
How God atones for humanity, like makes us at one. And for people who are listening or watching the podcast, um, a lot of times we believe that the idea of salvation that we got from our church or our tradition is the only viable idea, the only viable theory, when really there are multiple theories. You only got exposed to one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's important to understand there are multiple ideas. Like some people have a ransom theory that God had to save us from the devil. And then there are other theories that we won't get into today. But go if you want to learn more about that, just Google atonement theories. You'll get a good collection of ideas that are prevalent in many different faith traditions. But I want to go ahead and kick it over to Nikki. Nikki, what are we being saved from and what are we being saved to?
Oh, man. I'm glad you brought up atonement theories. I hope we do an episode all about atonement theories, because that's one area that I wrestle with all the time. I think it's a very tricky conversation to have. And then I apologize. I got kicked off internet wise. I'm having there's Rona in my internet tonight. I'm here to tell you. We were talking about Rona's in charge of everything right now. So I got that COVID in my internet. So it's having some trouble. So I didn't hear what all of you had to say. So I hope I don't repeat. But I guess when I come at this conversation of what are we being saved from or what are we being saved to, I go back to Genesis. Y'all know I love my Genesis 1 through 11. And I go back to the story of Adam and Eve. And when I look at that story and I look at what happened with the serpent, and the talking serpent, by the way, that had legs to begin with. And then you've got Adam and Eve and God, and they were naked, and then they were ashamed of being naked, and then they didn't want to talk to God, and they hid from God. I think what happens in that story is relationship gets broken. Adam and Eve don't trust God. And then Adam and Eve don't end up trusting each other because they feel like there's deception. And then there's the serpent, and there's a brokenness between the created world and the humans who were given dominion over that created world. And so I think that what we are being saved from is our broken relationships. Our relationships to one another, our relationships to the earth, our relationships to God, and our relationships to ourselves. This world is hard, and along the way, things get broken. And I think that when we choose to follow in the way that Christ taught us to follow, in the way that Christ taught us to walk, when we love our enemy, when we realize our own poverty, when we sell all of our earthly goods and give it to the poor, when we take care of one another, when we do to the least of these, we're being saved, and we're being saved from our broken relationships. And I think that's the part that the church has missed. The church has tried to talk about salvation as if it's something that only matters for us when we die. But in reality, Jesus and God and the prophets and the priests have all been calling us to abundant life. They've been calling us to a life that is full. And I think that the only way that we get there, not the only way, I think that what Christianity teaches is the way that we get there is living in the way that Christ taught. And so I think I got to preaching, and maybe I shouldn't have done that, but that's where I am. I think we're being saved from broken relationships to wholeness.
Yo, you made so many, and I'm gonna get the dollar jar for this. You made so many theological suppositions in that statement that we need to cover in some seriously. Like you said, Jesus and God. Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Jesus isn't God? Right? Like, and you said, the only way, I'm sorry, the way that Christianity teaches, oh God, you're not going to cover all of those right now, are you? No.
Can I throw something out and
Yeah,
follow
absolutely.
up?
Sure.
Now, listen, I'm going all the way left with this. I'm just letting you know. So there is this midrash tradition. Midrash is this Jewish discussion of the Old Testament text. There's this midrash tradition that identifies the serpent in Genesis 1 and 2 as the male sex organ, and as it is the thing that talked Eve out of her position of equality with Adam and caused her to be put in second place. And so when Jesus comes, he dies so that he can restore the relationship, that woman can stand right next to man as opposed to stand behind man, and not talk her out of the divine design where she is from the rib and not from behind. So, Nikki, you were right on for that idea of restoration of relationships. Sometimes we need to be saved from ourselves. That man needs to be saved from man.
Yeah, and I think
Wow.
that it speaks to when we think about it that way, we think about the interdependence of ourselves with one another. And it helps us deal with this issue of salvation for the individual, because we have to get ourselves right in order to be in whole relationships with one another. But it also speaks to our salvation as a collective, because what Christianity teaches is that I'm not saved until we are all saved. And so when we restore our relationships with one another, we move ourselves closer to wholeness with God and with creation and with one another and with all things.
I love it. And what I want to do is go ahead and start wrapping this up and moving to a close. I want to give everybody the opportunity to share whatever thoughts that you have. I want to say one thing, and then I'm gonna kick it off to everybody else, because this is the question that I wrestle with a lot about: what are we being saved from and what are we being saved to? And I don't like to relegate salvation to the afterlife, because I believe that Jesus came that we might have life and life more abundantly here in the present. So when we get saved, and that's a word that almost is so manipulated that I don't like to use it. At the faith community, when we extend an invitation, we extend an invitation to love. We don't say an invitation to salvation. We say an invitation to love, because what I believe we're being saved from is the negative proclivities within us. Too often, I believe we outsource our negative proclivities to the devil, this personification of evil. And I believe that we as humanity are created with just as much capacity for good as we have capacity for evil. And I believe that's a part of how God created us. He gave us free will. We can choose what to do. We can choose to do good. We can choose to do evil. And that's not just talking about how we treat other people. Greatest commandment, it talks about how we treat ourselves. I figured I'd get a dollar jar. I don't know what word it was, but that's cool. I'll pay it up because all the money's coming back to me to give me an iPhone anyway, according to Kirkland. Android for life. So I believe that what we're being saved from is the negative traits within us that hinder us from loving ourselves, that hinder us from loving our neighbors, and ultimately hinder us from loving God. And we're being saved to the image of God within us, the image of God that helps us to see ourselves as God sees us. We're being saved to the vision of our neighbor that God has of our neighbor. And then ultimately it helps us to love God. And I believe if we can understand that aspect of salvation, the afterlife will take care of itself, whether you believe in heaven and hell or not. If we can get that concept of salvation, I believe the afterlife will take care of itself. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to give a few last words. We're going to let Myron close us out. So, take 2 or 3 minutes, everybody. We're going to start with Grayson. We're going to go to the Kingmaker. We're going to go to Tiger, and then back to Nikki, and then Myron is going to close us out. So, Grayson, Kingmaker, Tiger, Nikki, Myron. Grayson, you got it.
So Christian, you might actually be a Lutheran, because Lutherans talk about how we are both 100% sinner and 100% saint, and how I think that really applies to what you're talking about, and that I find also pretty relevant. And then as for sin, Nadia Boltz-Weber, Lutheran pastor, likes to call it the human propensity to fuck things up. And I think that's a really great way of putting it, because that is what sin tends to do and is. But I really liked and was moved by it to the point of tears, Nikki's soteriology, we can use that word, because when I'm not thinking so hard through the lens of ethics and social justice, we defined it earlier. Myron used it.
I'm going to give them that. We used it earlier in the episode. Kirkland, give them a break. Come on. All right, go ahead, Grayson.
Thank you, gay agenda ally. Just trying to get some of that queer money. But I really do think, yeah, it's if radical is a term that means trying to get back to the root, trying to get back to the beginning, then even before Eden, there's either ex nihilo, which means out of nothing, or it was out of chaos. Those are two predominant theories for what God created out of. And so if it's ex nihilo, if it's out of nothing, then that means that barrenness, that nothingness, that aloneness is the ultimate and foundational injustice that God sought to correct. Because God could have rest satisfied with God's own self. If we believe a Trinitarian model, a Trinity model, then God is three people, three persons in one that could have been happy to relate with one another for all time. But God saw nothingness and said, I need or I want something to relate to. So if God can get lonely and work to save creation itself from bad relationship and from loneliness, then I think I really agree with Nikki that ultimately we're being saved from isolation. It's loneliness and feeling undervalued that leads white people to join the Ku Klux Klan, in part. That's part of it. That leads white people to join the Ku Klux Klan and makes us subject to manipulation, to white supremacy and neo-Nazism and all of these horrific cults that are destroying the world and destroying bodies. And part of that is loneliness and feeling outcast and feeling undervalued. And so I do really think that part of it, as Nikki said way better than I am, that if the original injustice is loneliness and isolation, then maybe that's what we're being saved from, and being saved to what MLK and John Lewis and so many titans of the civil rights movement said was beloved community. And maybe that is what heaven is, all of us in community with one another, apart from, removed from our privileges and all those things that keep us from not being human with one another. That heaven is the point when we feel that true sense of community and can't hide behind privilege anymore.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead, kick it over. Kingmaker, give us your thoughts as we close it out.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because this platform gives us the opportunity to talk openly about something that none of us have a monopoly or a clarity on. We're all giving our perspective, our opinions, and our point of view. But what I can say, and with no fear of contradiction, much like myself, we all joined the church. We all got baptized. We, in some form, accepted the right hand of fellowship. And I still am connected to the reality that in offering Christ, we offer people a connection to a sacrifice that he made, that without his sacrifice, I would not have the opportunity to the life that he offers me. It does not mean that I won't find myself situations, circumstances, and issues that allow me to get contaminated while I'm in his guard, in his salvation, in his protection. But it does allow me to maintain my relationship. It is similar to the fact that I'm grateful that through over 20 weeks now, time I tested for COVID, I had a negative test. It does not mean that I'll never get COVID. But what it does say is whatever the protection he's put on me, it has allowed me, not because I did everything right, not because I wore my mask in every journey in life, but his salvation kept me there. And it triggered it because while we were talking, my alert came up on my phone that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, his wife, and his children just tested positive for COVID. It's amazing to realize that somebody we see so strong has succumbed to a situation that's so bad. But the beauty of salvation is it protects us no matter what we get contaminated with. And his blood, his circumstance, and his situation gives me an opportunity that when I do get sin sick, when I do get sin vid 19, his blood, my relationship, and the salvation gives me an opportunity to be connected to him who can cleanse me of all my sins and unrighteousness.
Kingmaker, ladies and gentlemen, the Kingmaker. I just want to make one correction to what he said. He said that we have all been saved and gotten baptized. Uh, my wife, the lady who does not like to be called first of the faith community, has not been baptized, y'all. That has been my lifelong mission, to get her baptized, and she refuses. She is a rebellious woman, and we got to get Pamela baptized. That's going to be the first baptism at the faith community. Pamela has to get baptized. No, I'm playing. She doesn't. Um, baptism is symbolism, and I'm cool with it. But baptism doesn't mean you've been saved. It's just a symbol of your salvation. But I love to pick at her because she told me a couple years ago, or like early in our relationship, she was like, you know what? I've never been baptized. I said, what? You didn't tell me this before we got married? We was unequally yoked all this time, and I didn't know it. So listen, let's continue. Let's hear from Tiger, then Nikki, and then Myron's gonna close us out. Kirkland, you're not baptized either? Lord Jesus, Lord have mercy. We need to have a baptism at TSC.
You see why I gotta take over this church?
Take over the church, Randall.
Nobody baptized. Nobody.
Oh, King, wait, Kingmaker, you want to speak to that?
First of all, don't go and critique my clothes. I don't like it. Don't try to make clear of it. If you ain't been baptized, you are not saved. No, I'm messing with you. I'm just joking. Go back.
Gibson, the subtle savage. What you got, man?
First of all, this is just a great way to start season 2, and it's just going to become bigger and better. I am grateful to be a part of this podcast, and I'm just grateful to be a part of Holy Smokes. And thank you for you all listening. I would like to go back to the original kickoff of tonight when Grayson said churches probably need to be saved from themselves. And I think after running that through my machinery, I think we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job. It breaks my heart a little bit when people say and hear Christian, and it's a negative thing. I saw a meme a couple of nights ago. One of my comedian friends put it up, and it said, "These are the Christians," and it just had some Christians, some people on there, and they had their MAGA hats on there, and some of them was giving a finger. And I wanted to respond, and everything on the inside of me didn't do it. I don't want people to hear Christian and then Christian or follower of Christ or whatever. I don't want Christ's name to be dragged through the mud. Or church to be dragged through the mud. I want there to be a positive connotation to it. So I agree with my brother. We probably need to be saved from ourselves in the context of doing better. And the only way we can do better is individually by treating each other the right way and letting people know that we ourselves are Christian, that we ourselves are followers of Christ. And I want to encourage all of you all to be the best version of yourselves that you can be, so we can clear the stain and be better. Oh, and humidify your humidor.
Tiger with the tiger tip as he closes us out with his thoughts. You know, when Tiger takes off his glasses, that means it's about to get real serious.
Yeah.
If you're not watching, you should watch, because when Tiger takes off the glasses, you need to tune in.
It's from the
All
heart.
right. All right, Nikki, what you got?
Gosh, this has been such a great conversation. I think it's one that the Christian church needs to have so much more often. I think all of us experience salvation in different ways, because in reality, all of our brokenness is a little bit different, and we all need to be saved from that. I don't know if it's allowed exactly, but I'm going to read something for my final statement. One of my favorite writers is Frederick Buechner, and he put together this great little book. It's called Wishful Thinking, A Seeker's.
I love that
It's so
book.
fantastic. And anytime I want to really kind of like get my brain going on a particular topic, a lot of times I'll start there, because he takes all of these Christian words that we talk about here and defines them in his own unique particular way. And that way speaks to me. So he wrote a much longer entry on salvation, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because some of it gets to atonement theory, and I'm counting on an atonement theory episode, at least by season 3. So I'm not going to talk about that part, but I wanted to share what he said, a little bit of what he says about salvation. He said, the experience of salvation involves the same paradox. Jesus puts it like this: he who loses his life for my sake will find it. You can find that in Matthew 10. You give up your old self-seeking self for somebody you love, and thereby become yourself at last. You must die with Christ so that you can rise with him, Paul says. It is what baptism is all about. You do not love God so that tit for tat he will save you. To love God is to be saved. To love anybody is a significant step along the way. You do not love God and live for him so that you will go to heaven, whichever side of the grave you happen to be talking about. To love God and live for him is heaven. It is a gift, not an achievement. You can make yourself moral, you can make yourself religious, but you can't make yourself love.
Nikki Hardeman, the anchor.
Nikki, can you read that last line one more time?
Wait, I closed it. Hold on. It's in alphabetical order. I'll get there. I mean, I like tried to mic drop and close it. You messed me up.
You can't make yourself.
You can't. You can make yourself moral. You can make yourself religious, but you can't make yourself love.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
love Frederick Buechner. Does the heart good.
All right, Myron the Mystic, close us out, brother.
I don't even know how you follow that. I think we've answered the question what we are being saved from. But in my wrap up, I want to answer what we are being saved to. And I think we first need to exchange the word salvation for my favorite definition of the word, which is healing. I think we are saved unto healing. And when we look at the entire scope and canon of scripture, I think healing is the point, because nobody can hang a sign on their heart that says no hurt here. The scriptures say this, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth, who went around doing good and healing all those who were oppressed with all manner of disease. He came to heal. The book of Acts says this, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. That word saved in the original autographs is the word sozo, which actually means shall be healed. Even in the eschatological, the end time vision that John the Revelator has, when he looks into the future and sees eternal life, he doesn't say eternal life is forever life. But what he does say is that he sees a tree that's good for the healing of the nations. I think what he's saying to us is that eternal life is not measured in quantity, it's measured in quality. That when we are healed, then ultimately we have realized what is the fullness of salvation. So I think healing is the ultimate goal of salvation. So what are we being saved to? We're being saved to being healed from the injuries we've caused ourselves, the injuries folks have caused to us, and maybe even the injuries we have caused to others. So
come on now. Come on.
Boy, say that last part again, Reverend.
Yes, say it again.
I closed the book. I don't know if I can say it again.
Can you lean in the chair while you say it?
I closed it. I don't know what it is.
You said we've been saved from. What we've been saved from.
That was part of. Ariana said that was part of the sermon you was going to preach when you tried to take Christian church.
But I'm not taking the church, so I had to preach it here tonight.
You said you're not taking the church because you already took it. You said what?
Exactly.
My earpiece. You said what?
And in closing, hey, this is Holy Smoke, Cigars and Spirituality. I believe this is the dopest podcast on the planet. You guys are brilliant. You're amazing. This was excellent. Thank you to our virtual audience. Like, thank you for your feedback, your comments. You all help us to process this stuff together. So if you're listening, please do follow us on Instagram at Holy Smokes Movement. Join the Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality group on Facebook. And then if you want to be a part of this live virtual audience, go over to patreon.com/TFCATL and you can become a $5 patron and get access to everything. If you want to take it a step further and be a part of the Holy Smoke Cigar Club, there's another membership there where you can get Holy Smokes branded cigars in your mailbox every month. Listen, thank y'all so much. This was a great start to season 1. I can't wait for the rest of the season. We're going to have to add in some episodes, but I hope we helped everybody and helped each other with getting a better understanding of what salvation is and how it works and how it can work better, because we've seen how much damage it has done to some people, and for some people it's been great, but we don't want to sacrifice people on the altar of salvation. So thank you all so much. Tiger, I see you got something you want to say. What's that?
Didn't we give somebody some cigars that had a choice to get the T-shirt with the logo?
Blake?
And who was that one? I was chatting with them on Facebook.
Blake Blackman?
Oh, shout out to Blake.
Hey, Blake.
Blake,
I think.
is he in
Congrats,
the building?
man.
Yeah, Blake.
Congrats. Blake
Yeah.
got 2 sticks. He got 2 of them joints. All right.
Absolutely. So
I think Pam's ready to be baptized. She said
I think
something.
so too.
I think she's ready.
She want to be saved.
I'm not gonna waste any time. If she's ready, when this is over, I'm gonna go in the house, run some bath water. We gonna dip her tonight.
Wait, don't y'all have a pool? I'm on my way. Y'all got a pool, don't you? I'm coming.
Ooh, you need a witness? I'll come over.
I'll see you in a few minutes.
Hey, everybody, thank you. This is Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality. We will see you next time right here. Thank you so much. Peace out.
Love you all.
Love.